I am the Executive Director of Spatial Planning and Environment at the City of Cape Town. Prior to that, I was a lecturer at UCT in the Department of Construction Management. And in that program, I specialized in property studies, or on the property studies program. And then whilst I was there, I was also a co-founding member of the Urban Real Estate Research Unit, which looked at urban issues through a finance and economics lens.
I know that you were a part of a knowledge transfer program. What do you feel was beneficial about that? And what would you propose is the merit of other governments or other city governments considering such a program?
You're correct. It was a program where it was held over a 3-year period. It's still ongoing, but I was one of the first participants in that, where academics would go and spend time in the municipality on a part-time basis, but 2 to 3 times a week, and work on specific projects. And then municipal officials could take time off work or a given time, I think it was over a 3-month period, to actually go and write up the lessons from their projects. And I think it's a great program. And I think it was a great program for a number of reasons. One, from a city's official point of view, it's a very intense place to work in the sense that there's a lot of pressure on you. And so what happens is you work to complete a project, and it's all hands on deck, and then the project perhaps ends, and then you're thrown on to the next one, or you're working on multiple projects at one time, etc. And that ability to reflect and stand back and understand what happened, it's just not there. This is not the time to do that. And I think being able to, one, be given the time, but also to be given a bit of an academic framework in which to analyze the problem as well. So the official would be paired with an academic. And so what that academic would assist the official to do is to say, how do we theoretically ground what you've just been experiencing or the phenomenon that you have been working on, etc. So that you create a theoretical base. From the academic point of view, I think that brings a degree of discipline to the academic space as well, because it's very real, very tangible, very real. One, you're working on very real issues. But two, whilst I think the theoretical base is extremely important, it forces one to ground that theoretical base in realities. So I think from that point, it adds to the academic program in a big way as well. And then I think having the academics sitting in the city, again, they would then bring a kind of theoretical angle to it. But for me, the takeaway message or learning, I suppose, that I got from that was understanding the institutional complexities of trying to land some ideas or thinking was incredibly important, and quite sobering, actually. Understanding that it's not a blank piece of paper when you come into those spaces, and there's enormous number of, whether it's legal and institutional processes, there's lots of politics, and politics with the big P and politics with the small p. And that is not just about writing good policy. Good policy in itself is not necessarily going to bring about a certain outcome. You've got to understand the machine or through which this policy has to flow if you really want to get some type of impact coming out of that policy. And I think the other advantage of that program and that exchange is it also forces both the municipality, but also the academics and that, to also to stand back and ask some key questions and to question some of the underlying assumptions. So, for instance, I mean, specifically, around spatial transformation, perhaps the starting point of a lot of these discussions should be, what do we understand by spatial transformation? We use this term very broadly, very glibly, and we assume that we're all on the same page when we talk about it. And I think it's quite a complex concept. And so I think we need to understand, I mean, I again, as an example, I interviewed a gentleman who was living in a small development, small-scale rental development in Delft South, which was a kind of newish but poorer area, often referred to as being a poorly located suburb in Cape Town. And I asked the gentleman, I said, do you enjoy living here? He said, this is the perfect place for me to live. I thought, well, this is the first time I've heard of somebody refer to Delft South like this. And I said to him, why? And he said, well, I'm actually a security guard, and I work in Belleville, which is a node just to the north of it. And it's about 15 minutes by taxi to get to work. And so actually that is a well-located space for that gentleman in that location. But in a lot of our conventional planning frameworks and our diagnostics, etc., that area would be seen as a poorly located space. And I think we need to recognize the complexity, and that these ideas and concepts need to be interrogated more deeply. And I think these sort of knowledge exchanges actually allows for that type of interrogation to take place.
Sure. Well, thank you, Rob. I think I've certainly taken away some great insights from you. I think key amongst those is the need constantly to interrogate the assumptions that we're making and that we're basing a lot of our social interventions upon. But I think you've also landed with the need for contextually appropriate solutions. And so we're really grateful for your experience and expertise. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for the time.